Today, we are looking at two very popular choices in the low to mid-end market, Samyang XEENs and Canon's CNE primes. Both of these options are popular for people coming up from stills primes that want the features of a cinema prime but at a reasonable price point. A 6-lens set of Samyangs will cost you around £7,200 versus the same set of focal lengths from Canon, which were around £13,000. So, what are the differences? To start, here are their own charts that we have made detailing everything you need to know about their tech specs. But let's focus on the physical differences first. As you'd expect, the build quality on both sets of lenses is great, with the XEENs being available in PL, EF, E or MFT mount, and the CNEs only being available in EF at the moment. Both the XEENs and the CNEs have a front diameter of 114mm, with each set having consistent gear placement for focus and iris gears. This makes swapping between lenses much easier when using a matte box and gear system. The focus throws are nice and long, with the Canons being 300 degrees and the XEENs being slightly shorter at 200 degrees. The lengths of each lens are also extremely similar, with the Canons averaging the negligibly smaller 102.4mm compared to the XEEN's average of 102.9mm. Another interesting difference that often goes overlooked is the hard stops at infinity and how you adjust your back focus. Unlike the XEENs, which have a hard stop at the infinity mark, the CNEs have a hard stop that goes just past the infinity mark on the lens. The likely reason for this is that the electronics you find in the EF lenses make it harder to adjust your back focus through shimming, and the added rotation past infinity gives you the chance to hit infinity if your back focus is slightly out. Although the XEENs do not give you that room for error, if your back focus is out, they are a set of lenses that can easily have the mount removed and be shimmed to adjust your back focus. This is due to the lack of electronics across all the mounts. Consequently, this will be an issue for some, as there will be no iris readout and metadata being sent to the camera. Because Canon CNEs come with a standard electronic EF mount, you get a T-stop readout on your screen, as well as the ability to use Canon's fantastic manual focus assist that is a feature in their C-series line of cameras, a tool that is not available with other cinema primes. These two perks alone are a huge benefit to solo shooters who need that extra assistance. To further compare these sets of lenses, we have done our usual range of tests to evaluate their qualities, characteristics, and where each lens falls short. We're only going to show samples of our test clips that we recorded, but if you want to see each lens test in full, then there is a link below to our uncut video on Vimeo. So, starting off with some fairy lights behind a colour chart, we've got to test a huge factor of what people look at when buying or renting lenses: bokeh. When looking at the Canon 35mm, it reminds me of the bokeh produced by the K35s and its eccentric circles, but it's not quite as extreme here. However, when looking at the 50mm, this is not quite as apparent, with a much more oval shape and an interesting chromatic aberration fall off on the right side of the bokeh. The XEEN's bokeh has a cat's eye effect wide open, which goes away when stopped down. The 50mm has some interesting circles and fringing, whereas the 35mm is much cleaner. Chromatic aberration is controlled well wide open with only minor green fringing. Both sets of lenses have 11 iris blades, so when stopped down to 2.8, they start to show their shape of the aperture more and lose some of their characteristics. When looking at the colour chart, we can see the chromatic aberration is more cyan red on the Canon and green purple on the XEEN. Other than that, colour is fairly similar until you start looking at the skin tones. Out of camera, the skin tones using the CNE are even and bright with smooth transitions between tones. The XEENs resolve skin a bit darker with more noticeable transitions between the varying skin tone. Next, we shot some 4K stills of our focus chart to evaluate the sharpness and distortion. On both sets of lenses, distortion is well controlled and focus breathing is apparent but minimal. Looking at the 35s wide open, the Canon has some chromatic aberration, but it's fairly sharp. At 2.8, sharpness is much better and chromatic aberration is almost gone. The XEEN again has some chromatic aberration wide open and is decently sharp, but it's far better stopped down to 2.8, where chromatic aberration is massively reduced and is much sharper. Wide open, the Canon 50mm suffers from some heavy chromatic aberration and ghosting, but if you are trying to soften up an image, this isn't a bad thing. When stopped down to 2.8, this goes away with only a tiny bit of chromatic aberration remaining. The XEENs do not suffer from the same ghosting, but do have heavy chromatic aberration wide open, which goes at 2.8. We did notice something interesting while comparing these lenses, and that's that the 35mm have different field of views from one another. Making sure to keep the camera in exactly the same position and just changing the lenses, we can see that the CNE is a few degrees wider than the XEEN's respective focal length. We'll be exploring this further and comparing both of these lenses with the other 35mm primes to see which field of view is correct. Lenses are an artistic choice. Each have their own details that give them their specific character, and a lens someone finds flawed is another person's perfect look. So it's really important to test lenses and understand what each lens's look is. So that's all of our tests with the XEEN and XEENs. There are a reason that both of these lens sets are extremely popular. The Canons offer some incredible integration with their cinema cameras, great skin tones out of the box, and interesting bokeh. The XEENs offer mechanics way above their price point, mount versatility, and nice flaring and good sharpness. Let us know what lens you preferred and why down in the comments below, and make sure you hit subscribe for future lens reviews.